welcome to Teen Voice. I'm Sydney Boles, BCAT's news producer, and I'm here with Juliana and Arushi. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, I'm Juliana McGrain. I am a high school freshman at Burlington High, and
Hi, I'm Arushi Daima, and I'm also a high school freshman at Burlington High.
We are here for Teen Voice, which is where we sit down with the young people to talk about pressing issues. And these are ideas that you guys came up with. Specifically, our first topic you guys wanted to talk about, which is the spate of anti-trans legislation that we're seeing. So to set the table a little bit before we get started, some background. Since January of this year, state legislatures have introduced more than 400 anti-trans bills, more than the number introduced in the previous 4 years combined. And a minority, at least 47 of those, have become law. Among those laws, North Dakota's governor has signed a law banning trans girls from joining female sports teams. Tennessee has passed a law on sexually explicit entertainment that is pretty sort of perceived to limit drag performances, and other bills as well. And there's also sort of limitations on providing health care to trans kids, things like hormone blockers and surgeries, although that doesn't really happen. And medical groups like the American Psychological Association and the Endocrine Society oppose restrictions on gender-affirming care. So we're going to talk about that, but I want to actually start, if you guys are okay, with some stuff that's happening locally, which is Burlington has been in the news for stuff that went on at the middle school.
And not just BNEWS.
Not just BNEWS. We were in the Daily Mail in the UK and the Boston Globe, all over the place.
Crazy.
So what has been your guys' experience of that?
This is like the worst thing for Burlington to be in the news for. I would prefer literally anything else.
yeah, in middle school I was in the Spectrum Club, and I was very into it for a good 2 years. And I do really respect that they were trying to get themselves out there and do stuff about queer pride, because as a formerly cringe gay middle schooler, that is something I would have really wanted and really appreciated, but I don't know. I just feel like the backlash was very unwarranted and
So just,
scary.
if folks don't know who are watching, what happened was the Spectrum Club organized like a rainbow day. You're meant to wear your rainbow clothes or like brightly colored clothes, and then a group of kids sort of wore red, white, and blue in protest and tore down some of the decorations and other stuff. Arushi, what was your experience of that?
I frankly feel like it was insane. It was genuinely insane. Why would they do that? And I saw like a lot of people online like complaining about like the backlash to the backlash for that event. Like there was a lot of people complaining about what like that the people who were dressed in red, white, and blue were like they were
like
calling
patriots.
them, yeah, no. They weren't calling them patriots, but like some news sources were calling them like extremists or something. And people were like getting upset that the news outlets were being so harsh to these kids. But if that's the actions that they're gonna take, that's the actions that they're gonna take. It doesn't matter if they're like 12 or whatever. They destroyed property. They destroyed like flags and such. They made students feel unsafe. So it's fine that they are labeled as what they are. And I feel, frankly, it was bizarre that it happened. It should never have happened. And I feel like there should be punishment put in place for those kids. That's me personally.
No, you're completely right. Sorry. I feel like over the course of the pandemic, there has, I'm not trying to go all big picture, but
Go big picture.
I feel like the pandemic really has affected children in many ways, because a lot of the kids who are in the middle school right now, I'm saying this like I'm so much older, but I'm not.
We
But
were them 1 year ago.
Yeah, I know, but just give me a second.
Yeah.
They were all in elementary school when the pandemic started, which definitely did lead to some I would say stunted almost social skills and like problem solving skills. So maybe, I don't know, this is kind of just shooting fish in a barrel, but this is just maybe some sort of reason why things didn't go as peacefully, and also because of the increased time kids spent on the internet and stuff and got exposed to more radical ideas. I don't know, like that of anti-trans hate, and that like, actually, wait, only 0.5% of the population is trans. And the fact that there's that big of a backlash to such a small margin is frankly insane, and it should not be tolerated under any circumstance.
Like, these kids, we're in a free country, and they should be allowed to express like whatever opinions that they do have. But when you start like almost to the point of like destruction of property and like threatening like children in real life, like you keep that stuff in your own free time. Keep it off of school grounds, please. And there could be arguments to be made about like some people are arguing that the Pride event should have never happened, but like get over it.
Yeah, and also on the same train of thought, if we're going to limit student expression of individuality and their identities, why don't we get rid of All Spirit Days, number one? Why don't we get rid of America Day? Why don't we get rid of Christmas-themed celebrations? Why don't we get rid of the tradition of giving teachers Christmas gifts and stuff like that? If we're that into going down the route of no individuality, why don't we do that? But no, because it interferes with traditional Christian American values.
So you're saying there's maybe some hypocrisy in
there is definitely hypocrisy,
or the queer day being targeted.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So let's zoom back out to the American context. These anti-trans bills that we're seeing. I will say, for myself, it is really interesting to see the way that the trans community is being targeted or highlighted right now, because it was 10 years ago that it was all about gay marriage, and that sort of been resolved, ? And now there's this sort of new focus on the trans community that, I don't know, it's weird to, I don't know how to balance that. I wonder if you guys have thoughts about how those are connected, or if you just have thoughts about why we're seeing this surge in anti-trans bills right now.
I just want to start off by saying,
one of the comments.
Gender affirming care is for all people, cis and trans alike. Everyone has an expression of gender, and everyone should feel safe to express their gender in any way that they want. If you're a woman and you want to get lip fillers or something, be my guest. If you're trans and you want to get top surgery, those are both equal expressions of gender affirming care.
Like those like hair implants that guys get like when they're balding because of male pattern baldness, that is a form of gender affirming care. So get over yourselves. Anyways, I just, it's so crazy to me to see like these news articles. I saw this one news article from like back in the day that was talking about like a trans person. She used to like work in the military, but then she transitioned into like a girl, and she was just living her life, and they were so like normal about it. But now like a single person like changes their gender and the entire country goes wild and cuckoo bananas over it. Like, just be normal. They're just people living their lives.
Yeah, and I feel like also a lot of people like see people being trans and kind of associate it with other like fringe internet movements as like kind of a form of like, oh, these trans people are bad, we shouldn't allow these trans people. Like, just because Ollie London identifies as a transracial Korean man doesn't mean that...
Did you know that he doesn't like trans people anymore?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
He's back to white.
Yeah, he's but my point still stands. But it doesn't mean that Oliver, the 7th grader, is in any less valid in his transness.
We're in the middle of boycott, I guess. Are you guys up on the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing? But
I'm a very big fan of Dylan Mulvaney. I followed her since like the beginning, pretty much since like May or April.
So just to set the table, this is a trans influencer on the internet. She was like in some Broadway productions. Now she's just like mostly a TikTok star. And she posted this sort of like cheeky video a year-ish ago saying, like, it's my day one of being a girl, which is, like, a joke. Like, we can all sort of understand that that's a little bit of, like, a tongue-in-cheek expression of how transness works.
Yeah.
But she kind of blew up for it and is sort of the target of really intense hate. Bud Light sent her some beers with her face on it, and she made this video about, receiving these as an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole country is now boycotting Bud Light, essentially, and their sales went down 25%, which is wild.
But the funniest thing about all of this is that all the people boycotting Bud Light are going to a different beer that's owned by the same company. So they're still getting the profits. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And also, I just want to say that even though Bud Light did, and Nike did give Dylan some, like, free stuff, that doesn't take away from the fact that they don't care about minorities. Like, Nike, for example, if they actually cared about minorities, they wouldn't be using, like, exploited labor in, like, Asia or something.
So we're coming up on the end of our time in this conversation, but I do think the last thing I want to talk about is, like, we live in Massachusetts, which has a reputation, I think, deserved or not, for being a more progressive state. We're not passing these laws here, but we are experiencing protests against drag queen story hours. There was, like, a makeup class teaching kids your age how to do drag makeup, and it was, like, hugely protested. I think it was at Danvers. Yeah. But we are not immune from these conversations, as we saw here at the high school, or anything else going on. Is there anything that you guys would want to say to your peers, to the Burlington community, about how we should be thinking about our role in Massachusetts in this national moment of anti-transness? Anti-transaction, go ahead.
Yeah, Massachusetts doesn't exist in a bubble. We're still in America. Even though we're, like, a bit more progressive leaning, it doesn't mean that we're, like, some perfect liberal utopia and stuff. So there's still going to be people who have, like, hateful opinions and stuff, but, like, I think the most important thing is just representation and showing that these people are in fact people and not some sort of demon Satan spawn who's here to trans your kids or something. Like, they're just people living their lives at the end of the day, and I feel like they should be respected for that.
And also, we should acknowledge that we're living in, like, suburban, majority white Massachusetts, and a lot of people here are not the most accepting of other communities, but that's also not indicative of the entirety of Massachusetts. And if you have any of these opinions that are hurtful towards other people, you should try getting out of the house more. Meet new people, touch grass.
Yeah, please.
All right, on that grass-touching note, I think we will wrap up this piece of our conversation. Juliana Arushi, thank you so much for this segment of Teen Voice. We're going to do a little movie magic and be back in a minute for the second part of this conversation. Welcome back to Teen Voice. I'm your intrepid host, Sydney Boles, and I'm here with Anthony and Chase. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hello. I'm Chase. I'm here to talk about child labor laws.
Yes, I love this. All right, what now?
Anthony, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, my name's Anthony.
Right on.
Yeah, that's it.
So this was another topic that you guys suggested. So I'm going to do a little bit of background and then we'll dive in.
All right.
So for some time we were adding restrictions to make it harder for kids to have jobs, things to protect young people from working in dangerous conditions and to make sure that they could focus on schools. But in the last couple of years, lawmakers in primarily Republican-led states are proposing and passing legislation to roll back child labor laws. This includes allowing companies to hire children without work permits or for longer hours and in more dangerous conditions like construction sites, meatpacking plants, and car factories. At the same time, we're also seeing a surge in child labor violations. The number of children employed in violation of child labor laws increased by 37% in 2022 and 283% since 2015. One report found that 24 children died in the U.S. in the workplace in 2021. So, this was something that you guys wanted to talk about. Why?
Well, I feel like children at a young age have to mainly focus on school that will give them the bigger jobs or go to university or stuff like that. But we're talking about like 14, like starting this work, right? And people want to pass laws for them to work at like construction sites. I think that's too much. Me, I have a job obviously, but I think that all kids at 14 should at least get some type of job or like some way they can make money because it helps them understand how it works and they can get their own money to buy their own stuff, have more independence. But there definitely should be a limit. I feel like a construction site for a 14-year-old, all 14-year-olds are different, so not all of them are going to adjust, and they shouldn't be at such a young age because it's quite dangerous for them as they're still in high school, per se.
Yeah, I think it's like having a 14-year-old on like a construction site meat packing and stuff. I think it's bad because I feel like it's bad to admit, but I feel like 14-year-olds don't really take everything seriously. So having them close to all that dangerous equipment, they could definitely like goof off and then accidentally injure themselves or even fatally like get a fatal wound or something and die.
Yeah.
I also feel like something that I've been thinking about on this is like there's a difference, I feel like, between, you know, a kid whose parents are working, there's plenty of food in the home, who's working a couple of hours after school to like have some spending money, versus a kid who's maybe the same age but is needing to make money to help support the family or to send money to family in a different country or something like that. So when you're thinking about who's working these jobs, how do you think about the different kinds of kids in different kinds of circumstances and what their different experiences might be?
I think that like if a kid needs a job to help support the family, I feel like there should be a limit on what type of jobs it could get. Like they shouldn't at all become like a construction worker. Instead, they should like operate like a little snack shack at a place or like just do an easy job that doesn't require like physical work, but they still can get that money that they need to support their family.
I wish that wasn't the case, however. I feel like every kid should be able to have a good financial situation due to their parents. I feel like regardless, every kid should at least try a job like once, like go to a supermarket, be a cashier, something like that. But I wish that situation would never happen to anyone. Like they have to provide for their family at such a young age. It's just a bad situation.
What do you think is the rationale for the people who support these bills?
I think that's a good question. I think maybe it might have to do with like back earlier, child labor laws weren't strict at all, and like people, I know parents, like I know some of my friends' parents want their kids to get jobs early because it's like, oh, it teaches the kids about the workplace. But I feel like as long, like with the lesson it comes with, like learning about the workplace, learning what it's like to work, there's also those risks at such a young age to start work. So I feel like the cons outweigh the pros like a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I don't feel it's necessary to do such a regress on the laws because they were put in place to protect children, and now that we're regressing that, we're going to go back to children being in dangerous situations, which is something that shouldn't happen.
I mean, I feel like one of the arguments. Sorry, do you want to say something?
No, there's just a fly.
Oh, yeah, it is annoying. One of the arguments I could imagine that I think I've read in my little research for this was that we're having trouble filling jobs. Like since the pandemic, we've had I'm sure you hear the conversation about like nobody wants to work these days. So perhaps one argument is if we're having trouble filling these jobs and there's a 17-year-old who wants to do it, maybe we should expand the law so that more people are eligible for these jobs, even if it is maybe something like a forestry job. Does that seem reasonable to you?
That makes sense.
Like it makes sense, but I also just still feel like children just shouldn't still be able to work. Like I understand the need that like jobs aren't getting filled up, but like I feel like you could find people who are looking for jobs like if you just search hard enough.
It shouldn't be the kid's responsibility.
Yeah, I feel like kids should be last priority to find jobs like construction sites and risky stuff.
Some of these bills are allow minors to make less than minimum wage because the argument is they're kids, they don't need the money. What do you think about that?
I think I feel like that really enforces the thing that children are like not equal to like adults, but I feel like that's a weird way to put it. I feel like if you work, you should just get the same amount of money. Like that goes with like no matter who you are, like age, race, sex, anything. I feel like you should always get the same amount of money as everyone else that works in that workspace.
You should get the money you work for.
Yeah, the money that you work for.
Like obviously, like say for example, a cashier would probably get less amount of money than a construction worker given the workforce. But
like,
in this, yeah, I agree with what you said. Like how children should be have the same amount of pay as like a 30-year-old working that same job because they're putting in the work. It shouldn't be discriminated against children, race, or sex or gender. It doesn't matter.
Especially if it's under minimum wage. That's just absurd.
Yeah.
So typically, broadly speaking, the law is that kids can work about 20 hours a week during the school year. And I want to ask if that seems reasonable to you and if, like, why or why not?
I think that's reasonable. I feel like 20 hours a school year, week in a school year, I feel like that's like, is it like 3 hours after school, I feel like?
That would be 4 hours a day after school, but if it's like Monday through Friday, it could be like 16 hours on the weekend, and that, it could vary.
Yeah, I feel like that's reasonable because let's just say it's 4 hours after each day. You get out of school at like 3, go work. You still have time after to like do your homework, maybe hang out with friends, talk to them, whatever. I feel like that's reasonable, and like 20 hours I feel like would be the maximum.
Yeah, it's definitely maximum. It shouldn't be a minimum. It should be that children should be limited to work 20 hours a week, nothing more.
And what about extending work hours on school nights from like, so in Iowa they changed the law where kids could work only until 7, but they changed it to kids could work until 10. What do you think about that?
I think that you can take mixed things from that. Like I feel like it could help with like the homework situation. Like they could work from like 8 to 10 and like get all their homework and hang out with their friends right after school. It's just the only thing that affects is sleep. But I also feel like kids that age already don't sleep well, which could be another problem. But I don't really have any strong opinions on that. It's like it could go either way, and I wouldn't really care.
Yeah, I agree. Children at our age don't sleep, like have a dedicated bedtime, unless you're a loser. But
hot take.
Other than that, yeah, I feel like it can go either ways depending on what your take is.
Okay. I think we covered a lot of really good ground. Do either of you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think honestly just keep like maybe enforce more child labor laws. We don't want anything happening like the coal mines and stuff.
So like for the mines.
just keep them out of dangerous construction sites and stuff, and just that's it. Don't get risky.
Yeah.
Cool. Chase, Anthony, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR. It's all good if you think you should check in. Yeah, you should. Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health.
Whatever gets you talking.
Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back. I'm your less than intrepid host, Chris Flaherty, for our final segment of this edition of Teen Voice. And I want to welcome back Juliana and Chase. And today we are talking about the current writer's strike that is going on in the film and TV industry. So just some background. The Writers Guild of America represents 11,500 writers in the industry. They're in their second month of picketing outside industry offices and sets, shutting down production on shows and films like The Chi, Good Trouble, Loot, Evil. Saturday Night Live ended their series early. A lot of the Marvel and Avatar movies have been delayed. And a lot of other unions like the Screen Actors Guild are striking with them as well. The main issue is because the industry has changed so much in how we get our television, like streaming is such a big thing now. Writers get a smaller payment every time their shows are aired on TV. But with streaming, the contracts are different, so streaming writers make a lot less than broadcast writers. Film and TV industry profits have ballooned from $5 billion in 2019 to $19 billion in 2023, and most of that is from Netflix. So streamers are making money, but the writers aren't really seeing the benefit. Thank you, Sydney, for these talking points. So let's just, thoughts in general. What do we think about this strike?
Okay, so ever since I stumbled stumbled across stand-up comedy when I was 8. I wanted to be a comic. I've had a passion for writing for as long as I can remember, and I want to be a comic, and I want to have my own like show, and I want to be a writer. These are some, and as I've gotten older, these things have been seeming very unobtainable, because of the way corporations are treating the people who are making their content for them. The way that like if I were to be a writer, I probably would not get compensated very well, or I'd like be living for pennies and stuff. It wouldn't be great, and that's what's scary to me.
Yeah, so you're concerned like writing for television, there's not a lot of job security as it used to be, because like back in the day when it was just on television, like a show would air from, let's say, October in the fall till May.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
Friends has like what?
Like 22 episodes a season.
Yeah, 22 episodes a season. Think about like one of my favorite shows for a while. I'm Not Okay With This. It was like critically praised. A lot of people liked it. Got canceled after the first season. And it's stuff like that. Like the numbers matter. It's not like what critics and people think. It's just like the numbers, and I don't think that's very helpful in the field of creatives.
That was a big thing back in the day. Like a lot of television shows, like their Nielsen ratings. I don't know if you know what the Nielsen system is. Like that's basically like the ratings numbers. That affected a lot about whether a show would get renewed or canceled, despite its reviews and stuff. Chase, what do you think about that?
I think it's like bad. I feel like people, especially like streamers and like the higher ups right now, don't understand how important entertainment is to people, and like taking away a lot of the money from the people who actually make and produce the entertainment, and instead giving that to the streamers is just insane, because like they spend their hard work time writing and producing a show, and then they don't even get the majority of the money for something that they made. Is just crazy.
In 2020, or 2021, I think, wasn't entertainment deemed a was it essential job, essential worker type thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the industry was still going despite the pandemic.
Yeah, then why shouldn't they be compensated as such? Like just because you're like a writer or an actor or something doesn't mean you shouldn't be compensated. You know?
And there was a lot of risk during the pandemic to film television and film.
Yeah.
Like it's funny, I watched Law & Order SVU, and their first season, like during COVID, they were just very inconsistent with the mask and how the characters wear them. Like they'd walk into a room and be like, here, let's talk over here. And they'd literally just walk 5 feet and take their mask off. And I'm like, where's the logic here? It just doesn't make sense. But what do you think about, like, a big thing about this is AI, like people using AI as a tool for research versus like, writing a whole script. I know we talked about AI a little bit on the last Teen Voice. What do you think about that?
Again, I've played around with AI a lot. I don't think that it will ever be able to top like actual people, actual human ingenuity and creativity and stuff. But it is scary that artificial intelligence could feasibly write a script. It wouldn't be a good one, but it would be a script. And I don't know.
I feel like the thing with AI is it can write a script, but the thing that an AI can't do that humans can do is add their own personal, like their own events, their own like personal feeling to the actual script. So I feel like getting an AI that could give its own personality into a script is just like, I can't even think of that happening.
Like AI can't punch up a joke. AI can't write a bit about how they got fired. AI can't write about their parents' divorce and stuff. AI can't write about a bunch of like experiences in the nuances that go along with it. I don't think AI is that much of a threat to writer security, especially creative writers, but it definitely is something we should be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, so you think it should be more of a supplemental tool, not the driving force.
Yeah, like I have used AI to write like outlines for my essays, so I know like what to what to put where and make it more organized and concise. But I wouldn't have AI write a whole essay for me, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
So the big concern is job security for the writers right now, because the way we get our television shows now is so different with streaming. Like, let's say a show like Ted Lasso, like season 1, 2020, season 2, 2021, season 3 didn't come out until this year. So the writers for that show were basically almost unemployed for an extended period of time. And it's like a lot of that for streaming shows, where a season and then another season there'll be an extended gap between the time. So how do you feel about, how do we protect writers like that? Like, I think that's a big issue here.
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
me
no
too.
problem.
I think that writers should be protected at all costs, because they're the ones who are really making the show and stuff. And I think for like job security, stuff like that, I think that like, you know how when teachers go on like summer vacation,
Yeah.
like they still get like, you know, like, I don't know, couple $100 a month to like hold them over until the school year starts. I think it should be a system like that, where in between seasons writers are getting like paid, but not like as much as they are when they are like working on the show. Does that sound bad? I don't know.
We talked about how like back in the day, like a show would air from the fall to the summer, and then they'd be off, and then they'd start production for a new while. So yeah, there's definitely, what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah.
For sure. And then there's this whole idea of like the writers come, they write the script, then the show goes into production, and then they basically send the writers out on their way. Do you think that's a good idea? Because like rewrites happen all the time.
Well,
Do we think
no,
we
I
need to
don't.
retain writers during production?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like
sorry.
I feel like it's important to keep the writers there, because like, let's say for example they have a writer on set, right? And then compare that to a writer that's not on set. Like, let's say they're doing one scene and the person that wrote it's like, oh wait, I wanted this to be different. They could give feedback. Without the writers on, I feel like there's more chances for that mistake to happen, and then the show wouldn't really feel like put together as well.
Right.
The way I would put it is, to become a better writer, you have to have experience with how people like work and stuff. You could write a perfectly good script that seems good to you, but as soon as you watch other people like act it out and stuff, you can notice that there are like issues, and that is a very valuable experience as a writer that due to like writers being ousted from actual production, not many people are getting. And that's very worrying, because we want people to get better. We want higher quality shows, and without that like initial training step or training experience, you can't get to that next level.
Yeah, like the third Deadpool movie is in production right now, and Ryan Reynolds, he's a writer and an actor. So they were shooting the script, but he couldn't improv because that would violate the writers union, and that's such a big part of that performance is a lot of improv. So do you think they were wise to stop production right there and say, let's wait till the strike is over?
I'd say yes, because Deadpool as a character, sorry, I'm not letting you talk.
No,
He breaks the fourth wall a lot. He's very like quippy, like, oh, well, that's just happened, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But or at least in the comics he is.
Yeah.
And I think that just like not having that essential part of his character, those fourth wall breaks, those like character moments, really would take away from the character and would like create a more bland final product.
Okay. Any final thoughts as we wrap this segment up?
Writers deserve to be compensated.
Yeah. Chase, any final thoughts?
To kind of just what Juliana said, yeah, writers deserve to get good pay. They make the entertainment that we watch and enjoy, so give them good pay.
All right. This is fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you all for watching Teen Voice. We'll see you next time.
Big fan.